Good afternoon, Attorney Carlos Colombo from the immigration law firm Colombo and Hurd, and thank you for being here today in this live. Today we have a pretty exciting discussion that we're going to have on the executive order from President Biden that was issued just yesterday. Yesterday afternoon, exactly, is when we got the full text of the executive order on artificial intelligence. And you may ask yourself, why is an immigration lawyer so excited about an executive order about artificial intelligence? And I'm going to tell you why today. It is because it is one of the most significant changes that we have seen from the Biden administration since he took office on immigration, specifically on immigration for professionals. And surprisingly, it does not only affect people in the artificial intelligence world, but other professionals in technology and the STEM fields. So today we're going to discuss three main takeaways from this order and why it can benefit you in immigrating to the United States. I'm going to touch on those 3 points and why they are important for professionals considering to immigrate to the US. I'm going to show you the section on immigration from the Biden administration in this executive order and why I think it is so significant. I will be taking questions live as well. Today, we're doing this in English since many of you requested around the world that we talk about this very, very important subject. I will, if your question is in another language that I can understand, Spanish or Portuguese or English, I will do my best to translate the question for everyone to understand. So let's start with why I am so excited with this executive order and why I think it's so important. Three main parts of it that I can summarize it for you. Number one, it streamlines the process. Number two, it expands part of the options for immigration. And number three, it modernizes certain portions of the immigration system. So let's talk one by one. But first, let's put on the screen this executive order so you can see the section of the executive order that discusses immigration. And that is Section 5 of this executive order from the Biden administration. And as you can see there, specifically at the very beginning, it gives you a definition of what it is that they're looking for. And what it is attracting AI talent to the United States. But it goes further because it states to attract and retain talent in AI, artificial intelligence, and other critical and emerging technologies. And that is very, very significant language and very specific, purposeful language that the Biden administration has chosen to use in this executive order. Why? Because the administration has already defined what is critical and emerging technologies and professions. And there is a list that goes well beyond just artificial intelligence. We can put that list up on the screen for you all to see that it's not just artificial intelligence professionals. Of course, this is an exciting field if we want to attract those that have a degree specifically on AI. That would be the way to go, but not everyone, especially since artificial intelligence is something fairly new. Not everyone that has experience in AI or related fields may have a degree necessarily in artificial intelligence. So there is another list. There's a list of professions. We're going to put that up on the screen for you that lists other professions that are part of this definition of critical and emerging technologies. And this definition comes directly from the US government. And as you can see there, these are the list, and there's even sub-lists. It goes even further than this. But you can see there that some of the general professions that will be part of this executive order that the president has signed just yesterday on October 30th. You see advanced computing, you see artificial intelligence, of course, but biotechnologies, you can see space, semiconductors, renewable energy, information technologies. There's many, many aspects. You even have communication networking technologies within this, manufacturing, gas turbines. This list goes on and on. Why? Because these are professions that there's a critical need in the United States. Another one that you see quite often is, of course, cybersecurity. But the fact that the Biden administration has now for over 2 years said very clearly that they want to attract STEM professionals in particular, and now even going as far as saying AI is of critical need and issuing this executive order, it shows you that they have recognized that without legal immigration of professionals to the United States, this will hurt in the long term and potentially in the near short term the level of competition and innovation that the United States has around the world. So in order to attract the brightest and the best, in order to attract folks that will make a difference, not only in AI, but in these critical areas, the administration has chosen to do this by executive order because the US Congress has not taken action on immigration for quite some time. So what are the three main takeaways from this executive order? Number one, in my opinion, is streamlining the process. And that is part of the heart, really, of the immigration section on this executive order, where they specifically state that they want the Department of State. The Department of State is the agency that handles the embassies, the consulates, and the processing of the visas abroad, and immigration, the Department of Homeland Security and USCIS, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. They want those agencies to put in place certain measures to make sure that these applications by these professionals are going to be streamlined. So they will essentially have some level of preference in the processing of the case. They also want to make sure that they take away some roadblocks. For example, they discuss specifically in instances where an interview sometimes is part of the process, maybe waiving the requirement for that interview, making sure that enough visas are available and that there's no roadblocks to obtaining that visa or those appointments for that visa for these professionals. So they are trying to facilitate the way that you will be applying and obtaining these benefits. So streamlining is probably one of the big portions. And then number two is expanding certain immigration benefits for applicants. And here you have two parts because they discuss expanding benefits both on the non-immigrant side and the non-immigrant visas. Remember, those are temporary visas, such as an H-1B for professionals. They talk about J-1s, O-1s as well. So they're trying to help expand how certain professionals can qualify. And I'll get a little bit deeper into that in a moment, because as part of the third takeaway from this executive order is they're trying to modernize certain aspects of the immigration system. Why? Because the last time that there was any significant changes in the law was in 1990. So before iPhones, before probably this YouTube that you're seeing me in, certainly before these lives. So a lot has changed since 1990, except U.S. immigration laws. Unfortunately, the U.S. Congress has not taken any action on modernizing our immigration system, but there are options. There are options, and the administration is wanting to expand this without the need of changing the law. The president has the power as the executive to take certain measures to make sure that the United States remains competitive, especially now with the emergence and the popularity of artificial intelligence and related fields. So those three takeaways are important: streamlining, expanding, modernizing. Now let's get into how they want to do this. They have certain time frames for implementing these changes, but I would not get too caught up in that, because the government, these are not deadlines necessarily that they must abide by. What they need to do is make sure that they understand that this is a priority for the Biden administration. And because immigration is part of the executive branch, part of the Biden administration, the message is loud and clear. And at the end of the day, the conclusion is this: they want to make sure that immigration does not put significant hurdles for those professionals that want to apply, whether it be AI or these critical technologies that I identified at the beginning of this chat. So if you are a professional in STEM, in science, technology, especially engineering as well, or mathematics, any of those fields are going to be fields that are going to be attracted by this executive order. They even created a webpage. The Biden administration even has a webpage where they discuss this portion of immigration. That's how important it is to this administration. So what are those options? What are those more modern, streamlined processes for you to immigrate? Well, if you're looking at it from a professional, whether it be AI or any other technology field, and you're wanting to immigrate permanently to the US, one of the best and most direct options, and you've seen many of my videos on this here in YouTube, and if you haven't, check out our page, and you can see videos discussing the EB-2 National Interest Waiver. Why the EB-2 NIW? Because the EB-2 NIW is a direct way for you as a professional to apply for a green card, U.S. permanent residency. And if you have a green card, you don't depend on an employer, you don't depend on anyone other than yourself, okay? In this executive order, they specifically discuss the EB-2. They also discuss EB-1 for extraordinary abilities, but EB-1 is a little bit higher standard. So EB-2, a lot more professionals can qualify than the EB-1. What is EB-2 NIW? Remember, if you don't know the basics, you need at least a college degree, usually 4 years for it to be recognized as a bachelor's degree in the US, or a higher degree, a master's or a doctorate, a PhD. Now, if you only have the bachelor's degree, you need 5 years or more after you obtain that bachelor's in your professional experience. So you need experience of 5 years or more and the bachelor's or the master's or PhD. You can also have exceptional abilities where you need to meet certain requirements, although the majority of the EB-2 NIW will meet the educational and experience requirements. And then you must show to immigration why your proposal as to what you wish to do as a professional in the United States can have national importance. And there is where an executive order such as this helps us as your attorneys and you as the applicant in presenting the case to immigration. The fact that the government has recognized these areas as areas of critical need, not only AI, but remember those other professions, helps with the argument as to why what you will be doing in the US is in the national interest. So that's why I don't suggest getting lost in all these details of the executive order. It's the big message that the administration has sent to immigration, which is we want these professionals. We need these professionals to remain competitive. We need these professionals to innovate in the US. So they are trying to attract entrepreneurial endeavors. If you want to do a startup in the US, there's specific language for entrepreneurs that want to create their own companies, do a startup, be it in AI or other critical areas. If you're coming to research in the U.S., if you can contribute as a professional in these fields, USCIS is interested in your profile. And that's what this order at the end of the day is about on immigration. It is 2 pages long, but it is probably one of the most significant steps since the beginning of the Biden administration, and being very direct that without changes, without some modernizing of the immigration system, the U.S. will start losing its competitive advantage, and that is something certainly they do not want. So it is a great executive order for those interested in immigrating to the U.S. I think it will be implemented in phases. They talk about 90 days for certain parts, 120 days for others, and 180 days, which is the longest, for other sections. However, there's nothing preventing immigration from doing these things immediately, because a lot of it is based on the discretion. Remember that immigration officers always have discretion in these applications. And because that message is clear that they want you, if you are in these fields, my suggestion to you, and I will say this now and I will repeat it at the end of this live, is don't wait, because we know very well that administrations change. You could have a new president in the next election in a year and a half or 2 years. Politics, it's politics. And so waiting for these issues to be fully implemented is not a smart choice, because number one, it takes time to put together an application, and it will take a little bit of time for immigration to review your case. So if you are thinking of taking that leap into applying for, be it a green card or a non-immigrant visa, consider this now. Advantage of the EB2 NIW that I discussed earlier is you do not need a U.S. company to sponsor you. So because you don't need the sponsorship, you don't go through the more rigorous, the longer process of the PERM, which requires a U.S. employer to go through an additional year and a half process. You can immediately apply for the green card yourself without the need of a U.S. company sponsoring you. So if you're thinking of doing an EB2 NIW, or perhaps you wanted something more temporary like an O1, what this order does is they say, hey, listen, not every researcher, not every professional is going to have publications. Not every professional may meet the requirements of not only being published, but necessarily meet some of the more traditional requirements of the EB1A or the O1 for extraordinary ability, because they're simply working as professionals in their fields. So what they're doing is basically relaxing some of the requirements for the O1. And O1 is a temporary visa for you to work here in the United States if you have extraordinary abilities. And it can be in science, it can be in business, it can be in different fields. Or the EB1A, which is the green card equivalent, basically. A little bit harder, of course, than the O1 because it's a green card, but the requirements are almost identical for an EB1A, okay? So if you think you meet the requirements, and we have, of course, information about what exactly those requirements are in other videos, those are excellent options for you to basically self-sponsor EB1 and EB2 NIW. You do not need a U.S. sponsor. You do it on your own. So that's the executive order. That is what, and I'll put it again in the screen for you all to see. That's page number 2 of the order. You can see what I thought was an interesting part of the highlighted section of the second page. You can see there the basically every step. They're trying to modernize part of the H-1B system, the J visas. But to me, the biggest portion is really on giving options on the green card side. They're also even talking about a potential parole. A parole is a special permit. If there's not a visa available for some of these folks, but they're going to be doing something critical, we want them here as soon as possible. So they're even talking about a potential parole if a visa number is not immediately available. We know that there are certain categories where there is a shortage of the number of green cards that are available in the visa bulletin. And they're even talking potentially about a parole for some of these folks. That I think is going to take a little bit longer to implement because it's going to require a formal process of applying for a parole. So that's not something that we're going to see the effects of immediately, but eventually, hopefully, we will see all these measures fully implemented by immigration. All right. I tried to keep these lives at about 30 minutes so I don't bore you guys too much. So let's talk about some of the questions that we may have here today, and we can see answer some of those questions here live. Antiker says, I'm a STEM professional from Ecuador. Do I qualify, basically? And remember, this is not only for someone that has a degree in artificial intelligence. Remember that the Biden administration has also been incentivizing STEM professionals and entrepreneurial endeavors. So if you're a business person and you want to do a startup, but STEM, science, technology, engineering, any kind of engineering, mathematics, and entrepreneurs are incentivized. And this executive order includes critical and emerging technologies as well as AI. So these are additional. Now, remember also that those are not the only professionals that qualify for an EB2 NIW or an EB1. Okay, we have many folks that are in the business world that don't fit directly into STEM, that we win their cases every day. So don't be discouraged if you're not in one of these fields. That is going to mean that you're not going to win your case. These are just additional incentives that the administration is doing because they recognize the need, the critical need, because we have a need in many other areas, but these are areas that are in critical need in the U.S. Another area, of course, is healthcare. We represent a lot of doctors, dentists, physical therapists, because that is another critical area of need in the U.S. right now. And the Biden administration basically recognizes what economists have been saying for a long time, which is if we don't increase the number of professional immigrants to the U.S., we are going to start losing to other countries that are trying to attract. For example, Canada has been trying to attract some of those professionals. So it is something incredibly important for the future of the U.S. All right, so Galeano here, what he is asking is the following. My brother-in-law has experience and a certificate in AI. He has many years of great experience as a business administrator in Colombia. Does he qualify? Well, Galeano, we need to see. Obviously, we will do a free evaluation of your brother-in-law's professional experience. We want to review his resume. Again, if he has a certificate in AI, if he has experience in AI, they're wanting to attract that. They are not saying in any of these that you must have a degree in artificial intelligence. A lot of folks have experience, sometimes significant experience in artificial intelligence or other critical areas. And like I mentioned before, we have cases of business administrators from Colombia and from other parts of the world that we win their cases because what they're proposing to do as part of their NIW case is something that touches on one of these critical areas. And that's another important factor. Just because you have a degree in one of these fields, if what you're going to be doing isn't tied to that degree, then it doesn't matter. So if you not only do you have to have the experience and the knowledge, but also if what you're going to be doing in the US as part of STEM or part of AI or critical technologies, that is going to be extremely, extremely favorable to your case. Let's see what Ileana's asking. We have an I-140 approved. Congratulations, Ileana. With a STEM case, will this executive order get our final action faster? Good question. And this is part of what Ileana is asking because there is about a year and a half retrogression with certain visa numbers, especially on the EB2 or the EB3 categories, if this is going to in any way expedite it. This particular executive order cannot change the number of visas that are available, Ileana. And it doesn't mean that you're going to jump the line in front of everybody else. They can't really do that. But what they can do is perhaps take other measures to try to process cases as fast as possible, get the case to the embassy as fast as possible, and when a visa number becomes available, make sure that there's no delay. There is discussion in trying to recapture visa numbers that maybe were wasted in other years. So in other years, maybe there were visa numbers that were not used. There is discussion. There's suggestion in this order that maybe they can try to look back in time and get some of those numbers and use them now, especially for these fields. So there's a lot in this order that could potentially help get some of those visa numbers a little bit higher. But at the very least, hopefully they will streamline these processes and maybe they'll make it a little bit faster, at least from the processing of the case itself. All right, let's take one more question and see what we can do here. Okay. Artemis asks, hello, Carlos. I'm studying a machine learning degree related to AI in the US. How easy will it be for me to apply for the EB2 NIW after I complete it? Well, Artemis, it depends. We need to see if that is a master's, because remember you need 5 years of experience if you only have a bachelor's. So we need a little bit more information to do that analysis, but that is a direct degree. Machine learning is one of the obviously critical technologies that this executive order identifies. So you're in the right track for sure, but we need a little bit more to see what we can do with your profile. Remember, you have a link below, or if you look at it on our webpage or in our YouTube page, where you can complete the questionnaire, upload your CV, and we will review it for free to make sure that you can meet some of those requirements, and then we'll have a chat about the options that are available to you. Okay, so bottom line, this executive order on AI is much more than just AI. It covers critical technologies. It covers STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, that have a relationship not only to AI, but to technologies in general. I think it is fantastic that the Biden administration is taking more aggressive approaches on immigration now that Congress has failed for many years to take action. They're doing the right thing. It is a step in the right direction. If you are thinking of applying for an EB2 NIW, remember what I said earlier. You don't want to wait, because these are very, very favorable times for the EB2 NIW, an EB1 perhaps, or even an O1. So making sure that you, at the very least, start that process during an administration like the Biden administration, which is trying to attract folks just like you to the US, is important. Don't wait because you don't know what's going to happen a year from now or 2 years from now. Immigration is something that can change. It can change from year to year. So make that, at the very least, look into it deeper, see if it's something that is attractive to you. If you like these lives, let us know. I love the ability to talk to you directly. If you enjoy them, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm trying to do these as much as I can, hopefully on a weekly basis. But let us know. Subscribe to our channel so you can see these every week or so. And I hope that this is good news to you, the way that we've seen this as good news from the Biden administration. As always, it's a pleasure, and I hope you have a great, great afternoon.